All right then, Sue. Where are we? Hello, so it's Rachel Frantz here from Biomechanics Education, and I'm joined by the wonderful Sue TIMONEY, who is here to tell you all about her journey into biomechanics coaching. So welcome, Sue.
Hi, everybody.
So yeah, first of all, Sue, if you'd like to just introduce yourself and let people know about just what your profession is today. What is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. I sort of categorise myself as a well-being coach. That covers quite a lot of things. I'm a level 3 PT. I'm a BTN nutrition coach or qualified coach. I'm also a meditation teacher. And I'm obviously just on the journey of the final parts of becoming a biomechanics coach.
Brilliant. And yeah, I think you get a lot of these kind of hybrid type professions these days, don't you, Sue, where you've obviously mentioned a few things you do. Why do you think that is? What is it that's making us more hybrid today or mixed in our professional skill sets?
I think for me, it was an awareness that when I started on this journey of becoming a PT, which was only 3.5 years ago, I realised that it wasn't enough. So I wanted to develop other skills that would just make my proposition to the client better, really, and better for them. So I think along the way, I've put in place the things that I feel I need. And it's been very much on a continuous basis. I didn't set out 3.5 years ago thinking I'm going to do all these different parts of what I do. I've built it around what I feel and hear from my clients that they need.
Yeah, perfect. So what was it in the very beginning, 3.5 years ago, that inspired you to become a fitness professional or an exercise professional? What was it that started you off?
Own personal journey, really. I was interested in fitness, but not to the point that I am now. I'd always been through, I'm in my 40s, and I'd always struggled with my weight most of my life. And I had a personal circumstance that happened 4 years ago that made me reevaluate things. And I was in a job that I loved, but it was not really what was right for me. I felt like I was doing the wrong thing. So I took the time to say, hang on a minute, what do I really want to do? And that's what motivated me to retrain. And I think because I'd been on my own personal battle to that point, and I'd learned a lot through that, what I was really passionate about was really helping other people with what I'd learned myself, which took me down the road of becoming a coach. So that's how I got there.
So when you were going into the industry, and then sort of where you are now, is it what you expected, Sue, or is it completely different, or is it similar but a bit more?
Completely different. I think when I was starting to train to be a PT, I thought that you'd have loads of time to exercise and that's what you'd be doing all the time. And I soon realised that it was not like that at all. But what was really relevant for me was I was really passionate about helping people, and that was the bit that I think is why I still love my job today. And I didn't get into the job with the wrong thoughts and feelings. So some days I don't even lift a weight when I'm with clients. It's not what that's about. It's about getting them and coaching them to be the best version. And really, with a lot of my clients, they're mostly ladies in their 30s and 40s, and just getting them to be selfish a little bit and find themselves because they've just been so busy for everybody else. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think potentially, I mean, you and I are the personal trainers demographic of clientele, aren't we? Like that kind of sort of middle, sort of aged females, maybe with children like yourself, or not myself, and then maybe weight issues, confidence issues, and we are the demographic, aren't we? Really, so. For us particularly, it's having that empathy because we don't do it for the money, there may be that misconception in the early days, but I think that's what then drives us forward is the empathetic side to the industry. So it kind of resonates with me as well. But I mean, for you, what was it then in the beginning then? Because you've done your full biomechanics coach diploma. What was it that made you actually sign up for it in the beginning? What was it you were missing, or what did you see the biomechanics coach diploma might bring you?
Yeah, I think that's really important because when you become a PT, you feel you're going to have all the tools to be able to help people. And also as well, I've always worked by myself, which has been quite a challenge. I've never worked in a gym environment, so I've had no experience of that, of working with others. And I think what it was, I soon realised after becoming qualified that I was waiting for the person to walk in the door that was the type of person I thought I was going to train, i.e. the textbook, the ones that you were told as a level 3 PT, yeah, you do this, you do that, you do this. And I was thinking, hang on a minute, I think my third person I took on board had a hip surgery 2 years before and was struggling. And along the way, I call it wonkiness, and I say to people, we're all a bit wonky in some way. And I didn't realise that the majority of people were wonky rather than not wonky. So what was happening, and I was in my environment and I was getting people fitter and stronger and losing weight and feeling better about themselves, de-stressing them and all the rest of it. But they'd be doing things that I couldn't explain or rectify. And as a coach, you watch them, you learn more about movement patterns and techniques and things like that. I was looking at them perform certain basic moves and thinking, why is the hip dipping? Why is the knee turning in? Why are they having to lift up their heels to get into that squat? Why is one arm so much weaker than the other? And it was almost as if what I needed was a system to help me identify, going back to basics with that client, what was really going on before you then layer on the strength and the things that you were expected to do as a PT. And I was just scratching my head, but the annoying thing was I didn't know what to do to make it better. So I heard about you guys through Chris Kitson. I went to see him because I met him through the Nutrition Academy. And I went to see him and had a chat about me and my movement. And he talked to me about the system, and I just thought, that's the missing piece of the jigsaw. And since starting the diploma, every layer has just massively accentuated what I do for clients. It's just been mind-blowing, really. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's interesting because Chris Kitson is one of our master trainers, isn't he? And he is actually also an osteopath. And this kind of crossover, don't we? We get on the courses of both clinicians and exercise professionals and manual therapists, which you mentioned earlier about, not having the experience of working with others, and yet we find ourselves coming together, inadvertently, all looking for the same thing, trying to understand why we're not seeing these nice lines that we're taught about in training. They need to put the knees here and the back here, and then they walk in, as you said. It just doesn't look like that. It's very rare it looks like that because we're all so different. So what do you think the the sort of misconceptions about biomechanics are in the industry, in the sort of exercise world, which is your kind of area?
I think there's a lot of talk about, and for me personally, I'm just starting to look a little bit into the equestrian side. And there's a lot of talk about biomechanics, but what I think people don't appreciate is how this system is different. A lot of what I see out there is more about extrinsic biomechanics and how the body moves externally, and how I might then coach things more externally. But what I think the confusion is that people don't really appreciate what this system does and how it actually, it's a little bit like looking under the bonnet of a car. You know, there's something rattling, and you know there's something not right, but you're not a mechanic and you don't know how to do it. But if you actually have got the confidence, which I feel I have now, to open the bonnet and have a little bit of tinker around, you can find out what the problem is. And I think that's the difference. It's not hearing the rattles from the outside, it's actually going in and finding out where the rattles are. And yeah, I think that's the best way with extrinsic. It doesn't go to the layer. And I think extrinsic works for a while, but I think client, it's like with me, my own personal journey with the intrinsic biomechanics, your body goes back to what it was doing before. So it's a case of trying to bring in a structure and a program to stop it doing that, because it wants to do that, because I'm in my 40s and my body's always done that, so it always wants to go back. Where what this does is it says, no, hang on a minute, no, we want you to do this now. This is what we want you to do. Yeah. Which is why I think intrinsic biomechanics is far more valuable for a client, definitely.
I love the analogy of the car and tinkering and rattling around. I've got this image now of our bones rattling around. No, I love it. I think it's helpful in terms, and we always find it a challenge, which is why I wanted to start doing these videos, these podcasts, to help people who haven't done the course to kind of understand what it is, but in your language. Kind of everybody has a different way of putting things, and when people hear it, they go, oh, that makes sense. So yeah, that's really helpful. I love it. What do you think, so for you particularly, what do you think are the results and the benefits that you've got from working with biomechanics education in your sort of diploma? What are the benefits for you specifically, or results maybe?
Yeah, I don't think we've got long enough to cover them all off, but I'll try and think of some specific examples. My mum, not client, but just my mum, for example, she's in her 70s. She's had not sciatica, but she's had sciatic discomfort and pain probably for the last 15 years. Following the program with her, as I've been going through the case, the learning, she's not felt sciatic pain now ever since she started. So that's been a massive thing, really, because if you can help your friends and your family, then there's nothing better. What else? I've got a client who does eventing on her horse, very big horse, she's only small, and the feedback I keep getting from her every time she goes for a lesson now is amazing. She's just gelling with her horse better. She just feels more in contact with the horse because her pelvis now can mold round him.
Right.
You know, the connection she gets when she does a dressage test with him is just fantastic. I have a lady who came to me who had shoulder dysfunction, and she was a new client to me, and in the past I'd have probably, you know, having done a postural assessment, a basic postural assessment, put her through a program of strengthening and getting her to her goals. But what the screening showed me was that she had some median nerve impingement, and the shoulder screen showed me that there was definitely some dysfunction around the shoulder area. So what we've done with her is, rather than asking her to start doing any shoulder strengthening work straight away, we've worked on freeing that area up first. And she keeps sending me a like, I give her a broom handle where she has to go over like this. And when she first came, she couldn't do that. And now she's sending me videos of her lying on the floor doing it and things like that. And it's just, they feel the instant result. I think that's the thing. And when a client can't move in a particular way, and then they can move in a particular way, they go, wow. But a lot of clients initially go, I didn't even know I couldn't do that. I didn't even know I had a shoulder problem until you've asked me to do that. What else? Oh, there's so many stories. And I've only really been doing this. I started the course in February. And obviously I'm in the middle of doing case studies. But there's just so many positives. It's difficult to actually, give you them all. And lots of different people for different reasons. It's not just a certain type. I've got a runner who I've helped massively. She massively increased her splits just by opening up her pelvis. And she's now contemplating doing the London Marathon next year. And she says to me, I'm running different. She's in her 60s, but she said, I've never run like this before. And all we did was work on her pelvis. So it's just massive. It's really good.
And this is where you get the enjoyment, isn't it? When you, like you say, when you're about helping people, and then off their own back, they're sending you photos and videos. Look at me, or a 60-year-old who can do the splits and wants to run a marathon. That's where it gets exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it is really good.
What do you think is your sort of, what did you like best about your whole experience within the academy? What was the thing that you really, that was your favourite part or thing, or what was the best thing for you about coming into the academy and entering the workshops?
Okay, I think the highlight for me is the fact that it's so practical. A lot of my studying before this has been very much textbook, and you're sent away with a book that you've got to read and you answer exam questions. You might go and do the odd practical, but what I liked about this was it was heavily practical plus reading. And that's how I think with something like this, it's just so much easier to learn. I think if I was sent away with a book and said, read those 3 modules and then come to a course, I'd have just, oh my God, I'd have been stuck, it just wouldn't have worked for me. But just being able to come straight away, do a bit of reading before, go to a practical, which just makes so much sense. That was the highlight for me, and getting hands-on straight away. That's how you learn, definitely. So that was definitely the highlight.
And I know a lot of people have anxieties about their level of anatomy knowledge, and I have conversations all the time with people who say, well, I'm thinking about doing it, I'm not sure if I'm ready, I'm not sure if my understanding is there yet. And trying to help them understand how that side of it is. Would you be able to kind of describe, because I know we talk about the Kubler-Ross curve, don't we, and the learning process, and how people come in and they go into that stage 2 where they're like, oh my God, what's going on here? But then that kind of coming out the other side. How would you describe it for you, Sue, your experience?
As you know, most of my anatomy wasn't my strong point. It still isn't. I understand anatomy in a way I can communicate to clients. And I think that's the thing. And as a PT, because you're not a manual therapist, you haven't got that hands-on that you have all the time when you're a manual therapist. And with a PT, you tend to forget a lot of your anatomy knowledge once you've done it, because you've done it and you don't really use it all the time. When you're with clients, they don't want to know what your hip flexors are. They just want you to tell them what to do. So my anatomy knowledge, I wouldn't say was particularly brilliant. Did it matter? I thought it did initially, but absolutely not. Once you start understanding, it's not about that. It's about understanding movement. That was a big learning curve for me. And as you know, I was in that bottom of that curve quite a lot. But even now, using the stuff out there in the real world with clients, I don't talk about the anatomy anymore. I talk to them about movement and give them examples of movement, and that's what makes sense to them. So yes, it's important to have a baseline knowledge, because otherwise you'll be like me in those practical courses, like a rabbit in the headlights, thinking, oh my God, what are we talking about here? But it's not essential, because you learn so much and it can actually sometimes overcomplicate it, I think. Because if you know too much about anatomy, you get a little bit all stuck in all the muscles and what they do and things like that, when really it's about movement, and that's the key thing.
So okay, so if anybody's listening now and they're still wondering, like, you know, should I go for it? I mean, I guess for PTs it's an expensive course in our industry, because the guys don't earn a lot generally. What would you say to somebody who was maybe thinking about it and they were listening right now? They're thinking about joining the academy. What would you say to them if you could speak to them?
I think if they're a PT, what you've got to be aware of is, what is it that you do? What is it you do for your clients? You have to differentiate yourself out there. And I think there's so many people that will come out as PTs, and this gives you something that not everybody has got. But when you start talking to clients about it, like my existing client bank, and I started explaining to them what I'm learning and things like that, they absolutely love it, because they realise that you really care about them. And that's the key thing, you know, whether even if it's in a group environment, you know, we do the program, even though I'm not doing private coaching with people. And it's just, they feel that it can really help them. And I think as me before this, as a level 3 PT, I didn't have all the tools to do the job right. And I think this is essential for any PT out there. I actually think it should be part of what we learn as a PT, to be honest, because without it, you just don't have the. Oh, I think a phone call might have just come through. And it's not good. Sorry. I think as a PT, it's really difficult to do the job without it. Definitely.
Yeah. And I find it interesting watching guys come through the course, and we talk about the Kubler-Ross curve deliberately, because often people kind of they get the anxiety about their level of knowledge. They've forgotten it, as you say. Oh, you there?
Sorry.
Busy, you in demand. And they come through, but when they do take that leap, and they take the leap of faith and come into the academy, and they start to see actually what it is and how simple it is in application. And I watch people like yourself, you know, go through that phase of, you know, maybe coming in initially and feeling anxiety about level of knowledge, and then actually coming through the other side, and the confidence level just increasing massively, particularly when you start to get the client's feedback. You know, you've made this investment into them, and they see that, and then they start to get the results. From my end, that gets exciting, but from your end, I'm sure it is as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I might have mentioned this to you before, but because I'm always striving to do the best job I can, I don't really work very closely in a referral network. And when I received a referral from a sports physio to me in the email referring to my expertise, I just thought, this is just fantastic. And it was a guy that had been to see her because he had an impingement, and I'd recognised it through the screening, but he used to train somewhere else, and he kept going and aggravating this problem. Anyway, it caused a major injury. I referred him to a sports physio I knew of, but I didn't know her personally. And then she referred a client back to me. And when I read her email, it was as if she appreciated that I was different to some of the other people in this area. And she was comfortable to refer a client to me that had been to her with a sacroiliac injury. And because I think she knew that actually the process that I would follow would have been very kind to that client and very empathetic of the situation she was in. And that to me was a massive, massive turning point for my business. So that was really good too.
Yeah, I remember getting your message about that. I was like, yay, one of those wins, yay me, you know, like. So yeah.
The only problem is when you work on your own, you end up jumping around the studio on your own because there's nobody to tell.
No, I was there with you. I mean, you know, like when you sent that message, that from my perspective as well, I felt the excitement for you, you know, on your behalf, because I knew how much that meant to you. So that was brilliant. So, I mean, everything you've said is fantastic, really helpful, Sue, and I appreciate you know, taking the time. I know you were quite generous, said, you know, you'd be quite willing to come on and have a chat. So, any final words for anybody thinking of becoming a biomechanics coach?
Just don't. It's worth it. You've got to do it. And I think as an industry, we have to up our bar, and we have to think about why we're really doing this. And this system gives you the tools to do it even better. And I don't mind speaking to anybody. You know, if anybody's not sure and they want to speak to somebody, you know, about it, I'm quite open to have a conversation with people and help them to you know, to give them a bit more information if that's what they want as well.
Sue, you're amazing. I cannot wait to read your case studies.
Oh God, no pressure.
Thank you so much for your time, Sue. Listen, we will speak again soon, I'm sure, but much appreciated. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.